Hi, welcome to my podcast. I'm Lori from Chickenwood Studio, coming to you from upstate New York, south of the Adirondacks, north of New York City. And if you're just viewing for the first time, welcome aboard. And I'm so glad to have you here today. And I hope you enjoy our visit while I chat about knitting, spinning, weaving, soap making, and various and sundry topics about what I do crafting-wise here in my home. Thanks for joining us if you're new. Thank you for coming back if you've subscribed. And I think we're up to 220 subscribers now, and that's so much fun. I'm so pleased with that, and I look forward to meeting all of you. And please make comments and join on the YouTube page, or you can go over to the Ravelry page. On Ravelry, we are in the forums as Chickenwood Studio Podcast Forum, and I am LF DuBois there. I'm also LF DuBois on Instagram. So if you'd like to, connect in other social media ways, that's pretty much where I am active these days. So I think I will just get right into it. Today is February the 8th, I believe. And last night we had a wicked ice storm, and overnight the temperature rose, and I expected to wake up to see a beautiful ice-covered winter wonderland. However, the ice was all melted, and thankfully for everyone's convenience and for safety, it was melted down, and there were no big, terrible power outages, and the weather stations were predicting the worst, as they do. But anyway, so it's just a kind of a cold, cloudy, windy, not terribly cold February day. And I'm really happy to have a chance, a window this afternoon to catch up with you and talk about some things I'm working on, some things I've finished, and things that I hope to do down the road a bit. I sort of kind of started this year with a sense of wanting to have a whip down. I want to go through all my projects that have been sitting around for years because I pick them up and put them down, and they get to a complicated point and I don't have time to concentrate, so I put them down, or I'm bored with them, or some lovely new thing comes along and tempts me to start something new, which I often do. So I've actually been getting some of these things done, and it feels great to be able to share them with you and hand them off to the people I've made them for, and sort of open up room for some other new things. And also, in terms of sewing, I'm building up a little confidence to keep sewing and to keep trying some new wardrobe items and new project bags and things like that. I do have an Etsy shop. It's very small. It's very fledgling. And I just have some hand-woven towels and zipper project bags up there. That's also Chickenwood Studio on Etsy if you're interested in taking a look. I hope to put some soaps up there. I'm not sure about how they'll go in terms of shipping and all, but I think it might be interesting to give it a try. I've had some interest, some people asking if I would be willing to sell the soaps, and considering that. I love to make soap, and we can't keep up with it all. And luckily, my friends and family love my soap, so it's a handy and wonderful gift to be able to give them different times of the year. And so I'm going to have a little soap talk today as well. So we'll do some FOs, some whips, some sewing, some little bit about spinning, and a little bit about soap, and whatever else I'm not thinking of, I'll throw in as we go. So I think I'll start out with a sip of licorice tea. Perfect for today. And I think I'll turn off my little space heater. Excuse me. I think it's probably making too much noise. Forgot to turn that off earlier. It'll take a bit to cool it down, and then the fan will stop and we'll be better. So I'm going to start right in with the FOs because they're so much fun and I'm excited about them. First one being, these are a pair of mitts. They were designed by Molly Katz, I believe. She is from the Homespun House. Yeah, Molly Klatt, excuse me. Molly Klatt from a Homespun House .com, and her she does a podcast as well. She's a lovely, hello, come back. She's a beautiful yarn dyer from Germany, from America, living in Germany. So that was the pattern. It was her foraging mitts. This is not the best photo, but you may have seen this photo maybe on Instagram, certainly on Ravelry. And I had a lot left over from the yarn I had used for my butterfly hat back last winter. It looks gray, but it's actually blue and yellow, heathery blue and yellow with some silk in there. And this is hand spun, and it was fiber that I purchased from Katie at, oh no, Hilltop Cloud. She's in Wales. And I bought 8 ounces, so I'd have enough to do something with. And I did, boy. I made the hat, and now I'm going to show you the mitts. And I have a couple modifications that I can explain to you, but ta-da, oops, that looks a little rumply. I did change the tips of the fingers of the mittens. Molly's pattern has a decrease that happens all the way around the tip, and then it's sort of cone tip. And I didn't care for that, so I just did a rounded toe kind of treatment. And that worked out fine. And then, if you can see, she has this beautiful lace all the way up the cuff and the hand, and then on the inside a little bit of ribbing to keep it snug. And on her pattern, she has a little strip just outside of the lace pattern, a 2-stitch column of pearls on each side, just to frame that. And I missed that in the instructions the first mitten. So I realized I'm not going to rip this mitten out, and it's fine. I kind of like it this way, but it's a little different than Molly's actual pattern. And the other thing, did I change anything else? No, but the other thing I wanted to highlight was her thumb design was really neat. She increases, and then you have a piece of a waist thread, and then you just finish up and then after the waist thread, you decrease back to the original number, and then just up the hand. And then when you go back, you pull out sort of like an afterthought thumb, except that she added some increases and decreases in an interesting way. And I wasn't sure how I would like that, because it was odd to me, but look at that. It's just inside the edge. So they are definitely a left mitten and a right mitten. And they fit so nicely. I'm really going to enjoy wearing these. So thank you, Molly, for a beautiful pattern, and Katie for beautifully dyed fiber. And I'll wear these with my butterfly hat. I think that was by Joji Locatelli, now that I'm thinking about it. I'm not positive. It was way back many episodes ago when I showed you that. But that was success, and it was so good. And look at all this yarn I have left. What else should I make? Maybe a cowl to go with the hat and mittens? That kind of crossed my mind. I probably have about 3 or 4 ounces of maybe sport weight hand spun. So we'll see. So the next thing I finished was another set of mitts for Buzz, my husband. And these were a challenge because I was kind of winging it for the pattern, and they are Thrum mittens, Thrum. And I used a pattern not taking into account the bulk that these thrums would be adding to, and so the original mittens were too small. So I added some stitches to the count and tried again, and they fit John perfectly. And the fun part of this project is that the stuffing is not wool, it's pure cashmere. I know it kind of looks very strange, like a bunch of leeches are stuck on or something. I'm a country girl, that's what I see. We had leeches in our pond. Not this many, but, Anyway, no, they're not leeches. They're lovely, gorgeous cashmere. So soft, so warm. And the yarn, I bought them both at Rhinebeck a couple years ago. The yarn is from Autumn House Farm. So you can see that, Autumn House Farm. And this is their hand spun. And they incorporated a lot of different things in this yarn. It's called Barley Tweed. I love that name. It's silk, alpaca, and lamb. And a little bit of, recycled denim is in here as well. I don't know if you can see any of the denim, but there are little blue flecks. There's one. Little blue flecks here and there, and threads and things. So it's a very rustic kind of a yarn, but very soft, lovely to knit with. And so here is Buzz's Thrums, high class Thrums with cashmere stuffing. So Thrum mittens, I don't know if you've ever knit them before. I've seen them a lot in recent years. My first introduction to Thrum mittens was actually up in Prince Edward Island, Canada. And I made a pair for my daughter, and I made a hat for her using fleece. It was actually roving, sold along with the yarn for the project, kind of like a kit. And I think she told me, and I'm pretty sure this is the case, that I didn't look this up though, so maybe I'm just saying I think. This is a maritime Canadian kind of tradition. Newfoundland perhaps as well. Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, PEI, and probably points from there. They've been distributed because they're such a wonderful design. And so I hope maybe you give it a try. It's slow going because every fourth row and every fourth stitch, alternately, you're doing a little one stitch with a piece of your roving. Now I'll use this as an example. You rip off a little bit of fluff and you twist it around a little bit. Sorry for my unkempt nail polish. So you have a little twist of yarn and you make a loop but anyway, this takes the place of a stitch. And the next time you come around the next round, you just knit into the loop that was knitted in the place, right into the loop that you've added. And your working yarn will go around this and sort of hold it down. And then once you've knit into the new loop, you do have to yank the tails down so they don't get pulled out. The lady in PEI had suggested that I actually knit the thrum stitch along with the working yarn, and she felt that would secure it better. And I think I had done that, but I didn't do it on this project. I think it'll be fine. But that's probably a good idea, depending on what your yarn is and your thrums. This is not as felty because there's silk and alpaca in it. This might have been smart to do it that way with this pair. And as you can see on the little thumb, I ran out of cashmere, sadly. So I had to use a little Romney in there, but that's okay. Buzz doesn't care. I love them. They came out so well. So happy. So I did just end up using my own pattern. And the decrease that I did was like Molly's. I think I had a multiple of 9. I may have had whatever it was. I think I just did I don't know what that's called. Multiple points decrease all around the tip instead of just at the sides like a toe. So that was awesome. Another finished product that I'm excited to tell you about actually is there's a couple of sewing things to share. That's it for the knitting for now, for FOs. But this that I'm wearing today is actually, I didn't weave it, no, but it's a wrap that I made to wear to a Burns supper in Worcester, Mass. a couple of weeks ago. My son plays in the pipe band there, the Worcester Kilties, and they have a Burns night. They have the past couple of years in this gorgeous, beautiful hall, and a dinner and a concert. And the band played, and everyone is encouraged to wear Highland dress or business. So I didn't have a proper Highland kilted skirt, nor would my husband Well, he came close. He might, if we go again next year, he might wear the kilt, which would be fun. He could carry that off quite easily, quite well. So anyway, I wanted to show my Scottish love of, the whole thing. And I had this fabric. It's a beautiful tartan. I've had it for years, waiting to be something special. So I had enough to I did a narrow hem on the edges, and it's about maybe 6.5 feet long by 20 inches wide. And on the ends, I just ran a straight stitch and did a little bit of a fringe. And a drummer. So Ethan is a snare drummer. And so we thoroughly loved hearing his band play. They did just beautifully, and the drummers did a drum salute. Super exciting and wonderful. They had 15 pipers, and they sound like one. Amazing. So that was that. And then other sewing news. I did make some yoga pants with knit fabric, which I was all scared about, so intimidated by. But I pushed through it, and they came out well, and they fit well. And I have to say, I enjoyed the craftsy class that I took with Meg of, didn't think I'd have to write this down. Oh boy, craftsy class, sewing with knits by, I haven't even completed the class. The class comes with 5 different projects, including the yoga pants or shorts, a t-shirt, a hooded sweatshirt, and all that you need to know about sewing with knits. And that was all new to me. And I have fabric now for a t-shirt, which I look forward to doing next. And I wanted to get back into making project bags. I was doing a lot of them last summer. And I just said, I'm just going to go make one. I had fabric set aside, and I just bowled into it without really thinking that I remembered how to do everything. And I ended up doing it wrong. And I ended up with like a weird bag with a zipper in the middle, and then half a bag here and half a bag here. I had to rip out almost the whole thing. Thankfully, I didn't have to rip out the zipper. I was able to redo, and this is my little springtime bag. Love the fabric. Love the colors. I have more. I'll probably try and make some more, maybe put them on Etsy. This has a couple flaws so this is mine. This one's not for sale. But it's just really great to get back into doing that. Here's the lining. It just matches the bottom, the little lime green in there. Has a little bit of a fleece lining, what do you call that? Interfacing. So yeah, I hope to make some more of these. And along the lines of bags, I wanted to share with you that I treated myself. I've sort of been collecting bags of some of my favorite podcasters who sew bags. And I know I sew them. I've sewn a bunch for myself, but I've really enjoyed every once in a while ordering one if I can, getting on their Etsy sales from folks away from here. And let's see, do I have, yeah, this one, I'll just show it to you now. This other one, I got it from Thimble and Threadmake. Tracy, she has a podcast and an Etsy shop. She does a lot of bags and stitch markers and things. This one is called Sherwood Forest. Isn't that the sweetest print? I love it. And I have a bag from Mina Makes. And that one I don't have here with me. That's busy holding another project. And the most recent one that I did, I think I had bought one from, oh yeah, my brain. Oh well, it'll come to me. Another British maker. This little package arrived this week, and I was super excited. And brown paper packages. It wasn't tied up with string, but it was really a fun package to open because I got to buy a bag from Kate of Loop and Bar. And I've been watching her bags and watching her podcast for since it started. I love it. I love Kate. She's great. And I just had to get one of these little drawstrings. And this is the lining, Tilda Fabrics, she says. And here's her label. Just a little boxy sock project bag. And that fabric is great. The fishing girl with the deer. Just love it. Just love it. And the drawstring is really sweet. It's not really stiff. If it's not stiff, it's very pliable. It's very easy to work, and it has this adorable little button on the end, on each end. Look at that. It's on both ends, so you can get a good grip on your drawstring. And she also tucked in, along with her labels, a note from Kate, a card, a bag of Revive Me tea. That sounds good. And another fun button. Isn't that beautiful? That will be fun to use on a project. So Kate is on vacation in Australia right now, so she's probably not going to, I don't know if she watches my podcast, but if you do, Kate, I love the bag, and I got it in good, swift time, and I hope you're having a fantastic trip in Australia with your farmer, Evian. So that was lovely things, purchased and acquisitions. I think I'm going to move on to whips after I have a sip. Then I'll talk about the whips. And I don't know, I hope the microphone's working. I'm going to stop and test this. Yes, I think that the microphone's working. Yay! So before I move on, I wanted to also mention another podcast that I have enjoyed watching, a new one, and it's called Mara Knits. Mara is from England, and she's just starting out and doing super well. And she also does some tutorials, basic tutorials that she likes to do for friends and students and just post them. I've sort of done a couple like that too. It's very fun to see how other people teach techniques and stitches and things, and she's doing a lovely job. She also mentioned an interesting tip that I found helpful and never would have thought. A friend gave me a beautiful pottery yarn bowl years back, and I've pretty much just used it as decoration with a pretty ball in it, maybe some needles sticking out. And she put her knitting bowl on her desk. And so while she waits in between things, waiting for things to load, just taking a breather, like maybe a pair of socks, something that she wouldn't have to refer to a pattern too much. And that's how I got those foraging mitts going. I put them in the bowl on my desk, and every now and then when I had a break or was waiting for something, I picked them up and got going on them. And I thought that was such a great idea, so I wanted to pass that on. Maybe a lot of you do that already, but it was like a new thing for me. I'm used to multitasking, but just such a simple little thing. Plus, I get to use the beautiful bowl from my friend, so that's the best part. I wanted to move on to the whips. These are the socks I was telling you about, or I showed you last time, with the hand spun fiber, blue face Leicester fiber, and this person who dyed it calls this colorway Vacation. And oh boy, well, they really pop out on a day like this at this time of the year. Not going anywhere sunny soon, but we'll see. That's okay. These sort of take you there, and they're slow going with this pattern, but I'm managing, and I really enjoy it. As I told you last time, these are toe ups with a sort of a heel flap treatment, and it's a kind of a basket weave type of rib by Charlene Church from her Sensational Socks book. So they're really coming along. Maybe by the next episode they'll be done. I thought I might bring them to China, but I think they're too close to the end. So I'll have to start a couple new socks for the traveling because I can't go traveling without knitting. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that this is from Shetland. This is a silver piece by Mike Kinney. He's from Redhouse, Shetland, and does beautiful, beautiful silver work. He's a wonderful silversmith. We visited his studio this past trip, and Barb and I had bought this 2 years before, but he does some lovely jewelry. I had shown you his prints, his drawings a couple episodes ago, but I hadn't remembered to wear this lovely thing. If you can see it closely, it's imprinted with Fair Isle kind of a feral knitting motif. It's just, and he also does some earrings, which I don't have yet. Maybe I will someday. But another bit of Shetland that I'd love to carry around with me and remind me. So speaking of Shetland, can't forget about Shetland. Seems like it's always on my mind. Did you get to see any of the Uphelia? That was really cool. I didn't get to see it live, but I did see some of the footage after the fire festival up there in January. Really neat. So I'm still working on my little great nephew's sweater, and I've gotten to the armholes, so I'm steeking, making my way up. It's a fun pattern. It's not too overwhelming, only 4 colors, lovely traditional feral motifs, your regular pattern and your Peary pattern for small pattern. And I haven't done a lot on it lately. I just picked it up again after I got those mittens done. It was really nice to get back to it because I had missed it. So meanwhile, this last Sunday, we went to our neighbors for a Super Bowl, and I brought a new project to the party with me because I wanted to have knitting in my hands, to have less food in my hands. However, I sat right in front of the food table. Even though I brought kale chips and healthy soup, I needed to switch the soup and the kale chips. You know, all I had to do was switch them on the table, and the kale chips, which I like, would have been in front of me. However, I didn't think of it. Strange, isn't it? But most of the time I was knitting, and I started my little great niece's sweater. And this is a J&S pattern designed by Sandra Manson. Sandra works at J&S too, and I've enjoyed meeting her and chatting with her. And this is just darling little yoke sweater, yoked cardigan. And I did get it all cast on. I got the 1x1 rib done, which seemed like it took forever, but it was a long game, right? So I've done the rib and I've gotten into the solid body part. And so now I have mindless knitting for quite a long time. Maybe I'll take this on the trip to get that done. I won't have to look at patterns. I won't have to think about it. It doesn't take up a lot of space. I think that's not a bad idea. And as far as other whips, it's mostly the things that I haven't touched in a long time that I have no point showing you here because I haven't touched them in a long time. Oh, so I thought I would do a little, before I do that, I did have a little bit of this Nash Island light yarn, and I thought I'd show you the label. This is yarn the project I'd shown you last episode. It was a green hat that I made for my husband, and this is all that was left. I couldn't believe that. It was a big hat. It had a very long flipped up brim, so it did take a lot of yarn. But Nash Island Light by Starcroft. 100% wool, wild Maine Island wool. And, you know, I talk about them all the time. So I think Janny is putting out she'll have some more yarn on her website soon. I think she did a new lot of Fog, which is the fingering weight with Angora in it, which is lovely. I've used that for a few things. So moving on to, I think we're on to the soap talk. And then I'll finish up because after that, I'm going to add on an interview that I did with my daughter, Corinne, about her hiking on the Appalachian Trail. And when we get to that point, if that doesn't interest you, that's fine. Just, you can turn off and be done. But if it does interest you, hang on. It's about 20 minutes worth of chatting and asking her questions and hearing some of her stories about her adventures, which are not over. They're just stopped for the winter, and you'll hear about that if you stay on and listen to the interview. But soap-wise, I've been making a lot of soap lately. I want to stock up to have it on hand. And although I do make hot process soap, which is generally, it's ready to use the day you make it, but it needs to dry out so that it will last longer and let some water evaporate. It doesn't have to cure as long as cold process because it's been cooked already, and a lot of the moisture is cooked out, and the saponification is completed. There's no extra anything except beautiful shea butter and sweet almond oil and all those goodies that condition your skin so nicely, plus the glycerin that is always in handmade soap because the manufacturers haven't stripped it away for other purposes. So first I'll show you some fun things. I wanted to do this for my nieces and nephews, and finally just had this presence of mind to grab these things at the store when I saw them. I saw somebody do this on probably Facebook or something. They're little bath toys, and they're tucked into the soap, and the kids can, you know, as they'll want to take baths more often, maybe to get to the soap toy. I don't know, the bath toy. But this is a little penguin, and he's peeking out. And I have a seahorse and a dolphin, but I only brought these two down. This one is a little starfish. She's peeking out of her little pink and purple girly soap, and peppermint and orange scented with peppermint and orange essential oil, lightly scented. Because peppermint can be a little strong, but this is mostly orange with a little peppermint thrown in for some zip. Isn't that cute? I just love it. And it's just like solid, big chunk of soap. Anyway, this is a toasted lager and oats. I used ground up oats and a bottle of lager beer. And the beer makes it very bubbly and is really good on skin. I haven't researched a lot, but I've tried it a few times and it's really nice. It smells nothing like beer. There's no leftover scent, but it adds to the lather, and it does condition your skin somewhat. I can't claim it because I haven't. I just wanted to experiment a little, and I left it all natural colored. But it's a lovely soap. I scented it with cedarwood, sandalwood, and grapefruit, I believe. And then the last one was kind of a little bit of a disappointment. I wanted to do a really pretty, creamy, pinky kind of Valentine's theme soap. And I scented it with patchouli and rose geranium, which are fantastically paired. And I colored it with madder root and natural pink color. And I took it out of the box, and all I could see was bacon or meat fat. Or I don't know. It was sad. Smells wonderful. Smells like, I don't know how to describe how it smells, but I just want to be there where this is. And so I'm just going to put it out there. It's patchouli rose, and learn maybe for the future to use less madder root perhaps, or make it all pink with a little bit of a white swirl, or make it solidly pink. I don't know. Have any ideas? Any suggestions? I'm open to your suggestions. There's so many different ways to put soaps together, color-wise and things. I mean, it's a little limited when it's cooked because it starts to cool quickly and there's not as much time to do a swirl as in cold process where it's very liquid, and you'll see some amazingly designed cold process soaps with swirls and all kinds of techniques to design them. But the hot process is a little limited, but I'm fine with it. I just love the fact that it's done and you can use it right away. I like the rustic look. I'm fine with that. I like the bumpy top. And so now I'm going to wrap up here and introduce you soon to Corinne, my daughter, who will be heading back out on the trail this spring and summer to see if she can finish. She got about halfway through, and she needs to do some of the Northeast a tiny bit, but mostly Virginia, lower Virginia and down to Georgia. So I hope you enjoy it. If you do, click on like. Tell me that you liked it. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about today, feel free to ask. If I don't get the details in show notes on the Ravelry page, that's where I will put some show notes. Just shoot me a question. Happy to do what I can to answer your question. So thanks for joining me as always, and I will see you next time. It's about 4 weeks before I go to China to visit our other son. So I hope I'll be able to have some more time with you before then. Thanks again. Take care. Bye-bye. Hello again. I told you guys last winter about my daughter Corinne, who had a dream of hiking on the Appalachian Trail. And a lot of you were interested in her journey and followed her perhaps along on her website, on her blog, which I posted on previous episodes, which I can also do again, because her journey is not completed yet, and she's home for the winter, and I thought it might be fun to have her join us and answer a few questions that maybe you would ask her if you were interested, and that I know many others have. And so we thought we'd see what this would be like. So welcome, daughter.
Thank you, Mother.
And welcome to Chickenwood Studio. It's your house too. Yes.
Thank you.
So this is Corinne. And I'm going to just start asking questions because I'm not going to tell her story. So my first question is, when did the idea first cross your mind to hike the trail?
Okay, so I was given the opportunity to house sit for about a month and was teaching 7th through 10th graders at the time, so life was slightly stressful, and I was Skyping with a friend who's a park ranger down south, and she was talking about adventures that she was planning and ideas she had for what to do when she was done with her current job, and mentioned, actually what was weird is there was a bit of a lapse in the conversation, and I said, we paused for a minute, and I said, no, I think she's the first one. She said, do you want to hike the Appalachian Trail? And I said, that just crossed my mind. So literally that's when it first popped into my head as a possibility. Yeah. Well,
Debbie?
Yeah, Debbie, my friend Debbie, who I did end up hiking with and will continue to hike with for a little bit more. So, but it had been on my mind for a lot longer than that. I had been reading books about ultra runners. I'd been following blogs of people doing the Continental Divide Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail, which everyone's probably familiar with, Wild, and Bill Bryson's Walk in the Woods. And these are all things that I had read before, but it had never been a possibility in my mind. And at that moment, in that desperate situation when I was stressed out from teaching, it seemed like a glorious thing to try. So that's literally when it entered my mind.
I love hearing that. I actually never knew that. After all
I know. That's the other part of the story.
I know. All the stories I haven't heard yet, I'm looking forward to hearing. So my next question was, when did the idea that you yourself in your life could actually do this thing? Not just, oh, that would be cool, but I'm doing it. Was that a different point? I'm sure it must have been a different point in time.
It was.
Because you had to think about a lot of things in order to make that commitment.
Well, research, and I'm notorious for wanting to be an expert in a lot of things and getting books at the library for them and never actually doing them. Like watching other people do them and being like, wow, that's so cool. So there was a crossroads where it could have gone either way. It could have been, I could have said, ooh, that's so cool, I'm going to read more books about it, or ooh, I'm going to actually do it. And I don't know if there's a specific time when that occurred, but it must have been pretty soon after Debbie and I talked.
So, but you said you had gotten books for years and years about inspirational things that, what were some of those? The
books I've read?
Just a few of the stories or the people or the books.
Well, I don't know. I think the first adventure book that kind of kicked it off way back when was The Story of the Endurance and Ernest Shackleton. And I'm a nerd in that department because now I have about, 5 or 6 books, different accounts from different sailors. And so definitely endurance. Also, the 1996 Everest expedition, which was tragic, but I did really enjoy reading John Krakauer's Into Thin Air. I enjoyed The Climb by the Italian, I believe the leader of the Italian team. There's David, a local man, I believe, David Brescher's account. So all of these books, most of them very extreme adventures, never anything I would consider like a trip to the South Pole or up Everest, but I was inspired by them, and I think ultra running, or the endurance, the mind and the body, the ability of the human body and the human mind to endure what these people have endured and still endure even today. I have a friend who's doing a 100-mile race, a 100-mile running race. It just seemed crazy to me, but I ate it up. I sat in my college classes and read these books. Jill Homer, if no one knows about Jill Homer, she's an independent blogger, and she's actually published a few books on Kindle. And man, she's inspiring. Fat bikes up in Alaska doing the Iditarod on a bike in the snow. So anyway, I've had an interest in this stuff for most of my life, but the furthest I got to any of that was a mountain in the Adirondacks, which is fun, but it never crossed my mind that I could do something that would be considered an endurance or a pursuit involving and relying on endurance. So, but I mean, I could go on forever with all the books I've read, so, but I won't.
So, as you prepared and got all your stuff together, did you ever stop and have minutes where you said, or maybe once you got on there, why am I doing this? What the heck am I doing?
Perhaps more
when
colorful
did that start?
than that. The why am I doing it? Well, the thing about the trail, right? Yeah. Did it cross my mind, or did that question ever cross my mind? Why the heck am I doing this?
Well, it's actually two questions, isn't it? The first question is to prepare. Why am I doing this?
Oh, to help me. So so
because everyone
last
would
year,
ask you probably, why are you doing that?
Why are you doing this? And you had to have some kind of answer.
Yeah.
The book that I drew from primarily in preparation for the trail was called Appalachian Trails. It's recently published by Zach Davis, and he was focusing on, I mean, people have been doing the Appalachian Trail for forever. Decades, yeah. But his point in the book was the psychological side of it, how I don't know if this is quite accurate, but, 2,000 to 3,000 people leave on the trail every year, and I think the retention rate, as I call it, or the finishing rate is so low. It's 25%, and that hasn't changed. Wow. No matter how many people have left, it still has stayed that low. So his question was, why is that? Yeah, it's physically demanding. It's financially demanding. But he said it's mentally demanding. And he said, when you hit those days and you are asking yourself, why the heck am I doing this? I'm going to go home now. You have to have an answer, and your answer has to be legitimate, and it has to mean something to you. It can't be because I want to change the world or world peace, the classic answers. Like, I want to run away from my responsibilities as an adult. To be honest, some of us are out there for that reason, but that's not going to keep you out there when you're down to your last piece of beef jerky, or when the next water source is dry and there's only the next one after that is 10 miles away. Like, at that point, it's human survival, but you also, at the end of that day, you think, it would be so much easier to go home and turn the tap on. Why am I out here doing this? So,
and your answer is?
And my answer changed remarkably from when before, like my list that I looked at often before the trail changed as I was on the trail. In the beginning, I think my reasons were, I don't know, what did I write? I wrote, and they stopped, they stayed. I wanted to make clear to myself that I wasn't running away from anything, that I wasn't seeking some kind of salvation in the woods, that I wasn't thinking that it would suddenly, make my life this whole brand new amazing thing, like the grass is always greener. I needed to tell myself that that's not the truth, because it wasn't. However, I will say, after only having been on there for 4 months, it did change my life, just not the way I thought it would. So it was a dream I'd always had. No, that's not true. We already know that I am a reader and not necessarily a doer, but it was kind of a dream to feel what those explorers felt. I met a hiker on the trail one day in Maine, and I was having a rough day, and he looked at me and he encouraged me, and he said that the people out here have the spirit of, it's kind of a spirit to explore, much like the settlers who went out west. And because I'm a history nerd, that actually meant a lot to me. It's a spirit of discovering something new in life, or trying something harder than you ever thought possible, and somehow maybe being able to do it. So there was that sense where I was driven by a dream. I love nature, so I want to be in nature all the time, and I envied the people who could. And I thought, why not now? If I want to do this, now is the best time in my life. I've graduated. I haven't gotten an apartment yet, or a steady job. Now is the time to go spend. When am I ever going to be able to spend 6 months in the woods? Like, that was huge for me, is to go out and be among the trees and the wildlife. And interestingly enough, that became more of a problem later on in the story, when the trees and the wildlife freaked me out. But in the beginning, it was certainly a draw. So it was a dream. It was a draw to be in nature. It was to grow, because I'm in this weird time in life where you're kind of literally suspended between your childhood and your adulthood. But to grow in personality, in strength of personality, in an understanding of who I am as a person, and what drives me, and what's going to drive me in the years and months to come. And it's true, it changes you a lot. It shifts your priorities greatly. And that was not a part of my reasoning for going, but that is what happened. So that was a good... So. that was the long version.
That's good. I love hearing it. I do.
That's true. You haven't heard
Not
all of
in
it.
one fell swoop like this. This is such a good idea. So, along the way, what could you say were your biggest surprises? You could do positive or negative, or positive and negative. Biggest surprises to you.
Ugh. Well, maybe I'll do one of both.
Yeah, do one of both. One of each. And I didn't prepare her with these questions, so she's hearing them
so this is all off the cuff. Or is that the word?
Yep.
Is that the phrase?
And if it can't come to mind quickly, we can add it on later or just pass.
I think one of the biggest negative surprises was how quickly I fell out of love with nature.
Really?
I still adore and love nature, but I think when we live in homes and drive around in cars, it becomes romanticized. And when you actually get out there and realize that you are completely dependent on the next creek, you are completely dependent on your ability to make your way over this mountain, over that mountain, down that trail to that town to get more food. It's your best friend and your worst enemy all at once. It's your best friend because it really, it fills your soul, but at the same time, it's a hazard. Nature can be a hazard between storms, temperatures, wildlife, snakes in Virginia. So that surprised me because I just couldn't get enough of it. And I didn't get enough of it though. That's the thing. I left before I had the chance to absolutely hate it. So, which was
very wise.
It was a tough decision, but I get to go back with kind of a fresh, new, clean slate kind of feel. Not clean slate because I gained a lot from my experience, but I get to go back and still love nature. But it surprised me how quickly I realized that it was way too quiet. And when you're all by yourself for 12 hours at a time just walking, it was so quiet. It was so quiet. And some good days, some bad days, but that surprised me. I guess what's the positive surprise? Just how great the people were. I wasn't sure what to expect. Some of the stories I'd heard, there are plenty of people out there vandalizing the trail, who don't know what they're doing or don't really care. And there are plenty of people like that. But I was surprised by how many, I would say, lifelong friendships I made. And what else surprised me? There's no prescription for an Appalachian Trail thru hiker. There's no specific age. There's no specific set of gear. There's no background. Like, you don't have to be a former track star to do well on the trail. It was awesome. We were all leveled, completely leveled. It didn't matter. And you helped each other. So you run into the 60-year-old middle school teacher who's, got a 60-pound pack and they're still there after 3 months of hiking. And you hear the stories of the people who've been training for 2 or 3 years who had the lightest gear and have left. It really does come down to your psychology. I mean, you could hurt your leg and leave, sure, or you could get sick. I mean, there's a lot of risk with Giardia and all that, but we're all leveled, and we're all instantly kind of, there's a camaraderie that you feel where you're facing the elements together. And this is, again, let me just say, this is not like, this is one of the most traveled long distance trails in the world. So you're definitely not, there's nothing remote really about it. I mean, even the 100-mile wilderness was not that much of a wilderness. There were access trails up in Maine. It's 100 miles up in Maine. There were ways to get out and ways to get food to you. So it wasn't, but at the same time, you were facing risks, but you were together, and that was awesome. That was a positive surprise for me because I thought it was all going to be some competition, and I was ready to just be like, I'm the slow one, so we'll get that out of the way, But no, we were all working together to make sure we were having a positive experience. So awesome. I'm sure there are so many more things I could say.
I know. Well,
but it would take forever.
Yeah, I just have a couple more questions for now, and after, in the springtime, Corinne's planning to go back out to finish the other half of the trail. Parts of New York and South.
Yeah. Pennsylvania,
New Jersey. Filling in areas that she
hopped over.
Yeah. The frog hopped.
What did I call it? It was a patchwork quilt flip-flop
okay.
hike. Little spots.
Yeah. So when it's completed, maybe we'll have her come back and give you a catch-up on that. But I had 2 more questions. a people story or place that you want to talk about that would be fun to remember and share? People, place, or an event?
Oh, I have so many people.
There's so many.
What do we want? Funny or inspiring?
Yeah. Funny.
Okay. So up in Maine this is not a good funny story.
How about that Vermont
the
one?
trowel one?
Oh,
wait, the Vermont one is even better.
The Vermont one for this time.
I can give two, so I'll just do both very quickly. Hiking with my dad and my friend Catherine, and we're tooling down the trail in Vermont, and a bear dashes across the trail, and I'm like, bear! And Catherine and Dad didn't hear what was going on because the bear was so fast, and they're like, what? And I'm like, bear! So we kind of freaked out a little bit, and then we're like, okay, let's keep going. And we round the bend, and I see a gentleman, and this gentleman is in a skin-colored suit. And I said to myself, my, what fascinatingly correct skin-colored suit. Turns out, it was a naked man. So I'm like, naked man. And Catherine's like, what? And I'm like, naked man. Catherine's like, what? And I'm like, naked man! And so we turn the corner, and I'm like, hello, sir, wonderful day to be hiking. He's like, yes, actually, it really is. You have a great day now. And I'm like, you too. And we're walking along, and I mean, I guess it must have been by the end of the day, but I ended up putting in my blog post the day in which we saw 2 bear butts. So that was interesting.
Yes.
Wanted to inform him that Naked Hiker Day was about a month prior, but he probably wouldn't have cared. Clearly, would not have cared. He didn't care at all. No. Anyway, so the second funny story was a friend of mine whose trail name was Ginger Tiger. He's from York. I better take that out.
We can take it out.
Okay. His name is Ginger Tiger. He's from Yorkshire, I believe, in the UK. And I met him up in Monson, Maine. He was at the same hostel as me, and we decided to go to town together and get coffees. He had his first mint latte, and I think his reaction was, is there anywhere where I can get a really good cup of tea? And I was like, probably not. No, just drink your mint latte. Lovely, lovely, lovely person. And he's still on the trail right now. He headed south in August, so he probably won't be done. Or he's close to being finished, I think. I think he's
through the winter.
Or maybe he did just finish. Yeah, but anyway, great guy, redhead. So we're walking around town. We went to a little gear shop because I was looking for something.
Go ahead.
No, I think I was looking for something to do with my water system or whatever. So we go in and I'm like laughing, like a 4-year-old at all the trowels, and I'm like, and he's like, oh no, I was looking for a spork.
Yes, that was.
Oh, I'd broken my spork, and I'm like, let's go.
Go ahead, girl.
I'm gonna give me a spork. And he said, okay. And I was like, all right, let's go. So we went in and I found my spork. And he's like, oh.
Wait, does everyone know what a spork is?
Okay, a spork is a spoon and fork together. And that's the only utensil we have on the trail besides a pocket knife. So you really need a spork. Otherwise, you'll be eating everything with your nasty hiker hands, which is not good.
Okay.
So Ginger Tiger starts telling me this incredible story of how he broke his spork within the first week of hiking, and it went something like this. Well, my spork broke, so I didn't really have any options, so I grabbed my trowel and started eating my rice with my trowel, and the look on the hikers' faces would have slain you. And I'm sitting there going, people are listening to this! You used your trowel to eat your dinner! And it's like complete and utter shock. And then it turns out he eventually said that he had never used it before. And I was like, that's great. And he said, well, it worked way better than my spork. So from then on, I used my trowel as my spork and my spork as my trowel. And I was like, good luck digging 6 inches deep and 6 inches wide with a spork, buddy. Anyway, that's the other hilarious story from the trail. Lovely, lovely guy. And I didn't see him from then on, but I did hear from him on Instagram, thanks to social media. But yes, Ginger Tiger and his spork.
Nice, I love it. So, last question. Yes. We'll save the inspirational story for next segment.
Oh yeah.
Did you see any knitters on the trail? Or is
not
it just
that I
not
can recall.
Worth carrying it along in the big pack?
When I went to Oxford in 2013, we had some incredibly stressful classes. And part of the way I got through those classes was knitting a scarf, which is about as tall as an ant. And then I would unravel it and reknit it. And then I would, and the whole time my professor was like, wow, you're still working on that? Yes, I'm working on this scarf. So all I can say is I never saw any knitters on the trail, but I'm pretty sure the level of stress that we were enduring would have been helped greatly by a pair of knitting needles and some yarn.
Do you think you'll bring some on the next trip?
Perhaps. I was getting kind of tired of whatever my hobbies were, which I don't think
You
I
can't
had
have
any. I
any
think
on
it was
the
kind of
trail.
like sleeping and eating.
Right. You
Well,
probably
I did
no
have a
energy.
book. I had a book, but I
No.
didn't have energy to read. But I
Yeah.
think,
No energy by the end
yeah,
of the
but
day.
I will say that a lot of people had hand knit items on the trail.
Oh, yeah.
Because wool is huge right now
Yeah.
on the trail. So if you have, and yeah, icebreaker is great for base layers and stuff, but hats, gloves,
Mhm.
especially
Socks.
as we got down into,
Bed
or up in
socks.
New Hampshire.
Mm,
Yeah,
in the
socks,
cold.
fuzzy socks, like camp socks,
Mhm,
best hand knit
mhm.
socks. So
Okay, so if
So
there's
there's
any hikers in your life,
knit them,
there's a good, very
lightweight
knit-worthy
wool socks.
people.
Yep.
to knit
Or
for.
hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so.
All right. Well, thanks, Corey.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
I mean GPS.
Oh yeah, my trail name is GPS, by the way,
And
because I have terrible directional skills. Which brings up another story that I won't tell you right now.
Oh, that is a good one. So tune in next time to Talking with GPS about the Appalachian Trail.
And
Yes.
I
Oh.
hope this inspires you to want to hike the Appalachian Trail. And if you want to hear more, please ask my mom and she'll ask me and I will answer questions, or we'll have like a
And,
question and answer.
Sure. Yeah, we could do
thing.
that.
Yeah.
And we also I'll put her blog. Your blog is still up, right?
Yes, there are very
Um,
few posts.
Yes, but maybe there'll be more next time.
Yeah.
On AppalachianTrials.com, she
Mhm.
has a blog that
I don't
they
know
post.
how long it's going to be up, but
Yeah. Well,
we'll see.
if it's
Well,
working,
if it's not up, I'll
it's not-
switch. I'll have another spot for my stuff.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, daughter.
You're welcome.
Okay. See you next time. It's still taping.